I stood frozen in the doorway of that marble bathroom, my hand gripping the door frame so tight my knuckles went white. The man in the wheelchair had his back to me, but when he turned around, my whole body went cold. Those eyes, that scar above his left eyebrow, the way his mouth curved when he saw my face. "Hello, Dorothy," he said, his voice smooth as butter. "It's been a long time." My lips moved, but no sound came out. The cleaning supplies I'd been holding crashed to the floor. 47 years. That's how long it had been since I'd seen Calvin Monroe. 47 years since the night that changed everything. And here he was, sitting in a wheelchair worth more than my old house, looking at me like he'd been expecting me all along. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out right there on his fancy tile floor. "Don't run," he said quietly. "We need to talk. About your son. About Terrence." That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Fast ones, and a voice I knew too well screaming, "Grandma! Grandma, help! She's gonna hurt Isaiah!" Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me back up and tell you how I ended up in this impossible situation, standing in a billionaire's bathroom, staring at a ghost from my past while my grandbaby cried for help. 3 months ago, my Raymond died. Just like that. 1 minute he was laughing at the TV watching his game shows, and the next minute he was gone. The doctor said it was his heart. It felt like mine stopped too that day. We'd been married 43 years. He was my everything, my partner, my best friend, the man who held my hand through everything life threw at us. The funeral was beautiful. Our church, Mount Calvary Baptist, filled up with folks who loved Raymond. Pastor Williams gave a sermon that had everyone crying and laughing at the same time, remembering all the good Raymond did in this world. He worked at the post office for 30 years, never missed a day, coached Little League, helped neighbors fix their cars. He was the kind of man who made the world better just by being in it. My son Terrence stood next to me at the funeral, his arm around my shoulders. His wife Shanice was there too, holding our grandbabies, Amara and Isaiah. They were 7 and 5, shows. Beautiful children with bright eyes and big dreams. Looking at them was the only thing that kept me standing that day. After the funeral, folks came to Terrence's house. That's where I'd been staying since Raymond passed. Our house, the one Raymond and I bought in 1985, we'd sold it 2 years ago when Raymond got sick. The medical bills were piling up, and Terrence convinced us to sell and move in with him and Shanice. Said it made sense, said they had the room, said we were family. So we sold our little 3-bedroom house in the neighborhood where we'd raised Terrence, where we'd had cookouts every 4th of July and Christmas parties every December, where Raymond planted rose bushes for me every spring. We sold it all and gave most of the money to Terrence to invest for us, keeping just enough for Raymond's care. Now, Raymond was gone, and I was living in Terrence's basement. About a week after the funeral, I was in the kitchen making breakfast for the kids. Amara liked her eggs scrambled with cheese. Isaiah wanted his fried hard. I was standing at the stove in my robe, humming one of the old gospel songs we used to sing at church, when Shanice came in. She didn't say good morning. She just stood there in her designer workout clothes. She never actually worked out, mind you, staring at me with her arms crossed. "We need to talk, Dorothy," she said. Not Mom. Not Mama Dot, like the kids called me. Just Dorothy. I turned down the heat on the eggs. "What's on your mind, baby?" "The bills." She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "The electric bill is $300 this month. Water's up too. Groceries are through the roof. And Terrence's car payment is due." "Okay," I said slowly. I wasn't sure where this was going, but I had a bad feeling in my stomach. Raymond's Social Security stopped. Obviously. And you don't work, so you're not contributing anything to this household. The spatula in my hand started shaking. Shanice, Raymond and I gave Terrence nearly $200,000 when we sold our house. We've been paying our share." "That money is gone," she said, not even looking up from her phone. "Investments, house repairs. Life is expensive, Dorothy. We can't carry dead weight." Dead weight. That's what she called me, a week after I buried my husband. "What are you saying?" I asked, though I already knew. My throat felt tight. She finally looked at me and her eyes were cold. "I'm saying if you don't start helping with the bills, you'll end up homeless. This is our house. Terrence and I work hard for everything we have. We can't afford to support someone who doesn't contribute." "Where's Terrence?" I asked. "Does he know you're talking to me like this?" "Terrence agrees with me. He's just too nice to say it himself. But we're a team, and this is what we've decided. You need to get a job, or you need to find somewhere else to live." I heard little footsteps on the stairs. Isaiah was coming down for breakfast. "We'll talk about this later," I said quietly, turning back to the eggs before my grandbaby could see the tears in my eyes. But Shanice wasn't done. "We're talking about it now. I want you out by the end of the month unless you can pay us $1,500. That's half the mortgage, plus your share of utilities and food." $1,500? I whispered. "Shanice, I'm 68 years old. I don't have that kind of money." "Then you better figure something out." She walked past me and grabbed her designer purse off the counter. "I'm going to brunch with the girls. Think about what I said." She left just as Isaiah came into the kitchen, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Morning, Grandma Dot," he said with a yawn. I put on my biggest smile, the one that hurt my face. "Morning, baby. You want your eggs?" That afternoon, after I got the kids fed and settled with their cartoons, I went down to my little space in the basement and cried. I cried for Raymond. I cried for myself. I cried because I didn't know what to do. Raymond and I had always been careful with money. We'd saved and planned. But his cancer treatments ate through everything. When he needed that experimental treatment, we'd use the last of our savings. We thought we'd have more time. We thought we'd figure it out together. Now here I was, a week after losing my husband, being told I was about to lose my home too. I called my friend Loretta that night. We'd known each other since high school. She'd been at the funeral, brought her famous mac and cheese to the repast. If anyone would tell me straight, it was Loretta. "Girl, no," she said when I told her what Shanice had said. "That woman did not tell you that. Not a week after Raymond's funeral." "She did." "And what did Terrence say?" "I haven't talked to him yet. He's been working late every night this week." Loretta made a sound like she was sucking her teeth. "Working late?" "Mm-hmm. Dot, you know I love you like a sister, but you need to hear this. Terrence has always let that woman run him. Ever since he married her 10 years ago, he's been different. You see it, right?" I didn't want to admit it, but I did see it. My son, who used to call me every Sunday, who used to bring the kids over for Saturday breakfast, who used to help Raymond with projects around our old house, that son had slowly disappeared after he married Shanice. Now I barely saw him, even though we lived in the same house. "What am I supposed to do, Loretta? I don't have $1,500 a month. Raymond's life insurance barely covered the funeral." "What about that money from the house?" "Terrence has it. He was supposed to be investing it, but Shanice says it's gone." Loretta was quiet for a long moment. "Dot, you need to talk to a lawyer." "That don't sound right." "A lawyer costs money I don't have, and he's my son. I can't—" "He's letting his wife put you out on the street." "I'll figure something out," I said. "Maybe I can get a job. I worked retail before Terrence was born. Maybe one of the stores is hiring." "At 68? Baby, I love you, but them stores want young people who can stand all day and work for minimum wage. You need something that's gonna pay real money fast." She was right, but I didn't know what else to do. The next week, I applied everywhere. The grocery store, the department store at the mall, even the fast food places. Every single one looked at my application, saw my age, and gave me that sympathetic smile. "We'll call you if something comes up." Nobody called. Terrence avoided me. He'd leave early for work before I woke up. Come home late after I'd gone to bed. The few times I saw him, he couldn't look me in the eye. Shanice, though, she made sure I saw her. Every day she'd make some comment about the bills, about how expensive everything was, about how she and Terrence were sacrificing so much. Meanwhile, I watched her get her nails done every week, watched her come home with shopping bags from expensive stores, watched her order takeout for dinner 3 times a week while I offered to cook. The kids were my only joy. I'd help Amara with her homework. I'd play superheroes with Isaiah. I'd tuck them in at night and tell them stories about when their daddy was little. They loved me, and I loved them. They were the reason I got up every morning. 2 weeks before my deadline, I was at church on Sunday. Mount Calvary Baptist had been my church home for 40 years. Pastor Williams gave a sermon about faith in the desert, about how God provides even when we can't see the way. After service, I was in the fellowship hall helping Sister Margaret set up for the potluck when I overheard 2 ladies talking. "She's looking for someone to help with him full-time," one of them said. "The money is real good, too, $25 an hour." My ears perked up. $25 an hour? "Who's looking?" I asked, trying not to sound too desperate. The woman, Sister Joyce, turned to me. "Oh, Dorothy, I'm so sorry about Raymond. How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I said. "But I heard you mention a job?" "Yes, my cousin works for a staffing agency. They're looking for a live-in caregiver for an elderly gentleman. Well, not that elderly. He's in his 60s, but he's in a wheelchair and needs help with daily activities." Live-in. That word echoed in my head. If I lived somewhere else, I wouldn't have to deal with Shanice. And $25 an hour, that was real money. "Is the position still open?" I asked. "Far as I know. You interested?" "Very." Sister Joyce pulled out her phone. "Let me text you my cousin's number. Her name is Angela. Tell her I sent you." That night, I called Angela. We talked for over an hour. The position was for a gentleman named Calvin Monroe. He'd been in a car accident a year ago and needed someone to help him with bathing, dressing, meals, and getting around his house. "The house is beautiful," Angela said. "It's in Briarwood Estates. You know that fancy neighborhood?" I did know it. It was where the doctors and lawyers lived, where the houses had gates and 3-car garages. "The pay is $25 an hour, and since it's live-in, you get your own suite in the house. All meals provided. Health insurance after 60 days. It sounded too good to be true. "Why can't he find someone?" Angela hesitated. "He's particular. He's had 3 caregivers in the past month. They all quit. He says they weren't competent, but between you and me, I think he's just difficult. Rich people can be like that." "I can handle difficult," I said. I'd just spent 3 weeks with Shanice. How much worse could this man be? "When can you start?" "When does he need me?" "Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow." I thought about the basement, about Shanice's cold eyes, about having 5 days left until her deadline. "I'll do it," I said. The next morning, I packed my small suitcase with my clothes, my Bible, and the photo album Raymond had made for our 40th anniversary. I told Shanice I'd found a live-in position. She actually smiled. "Well, good for you, Dorothy. At least you won't be a burden anymore." I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell her about herself. But I just nodded and hugged my grandbabies tight. "Why are you leaving, Grandma Dot?" Amara asked, tears in her eyes. "I have to go to work, baby, but I'll visit you, I promise." "Will you call me?" Isaiah asked. "Every single day." Terrence wasn't home. He didn't even say goodbye to his own mother. Angela picked me up and drove me to Briarwood Estates. The houses got bigger and bigger as we drove through the neighborhood. Finally, we pulled up to a massive gate. "This is it." Angela said, punching in a code. The gate swung open. The house was like something from a magazine. 3 stories of brick and glass, with a circular driveway and a fountain in the front. The lawn was perfect. Everything was perfect. "Mr. Monroe is expecting you," Angela said. "He's probably in his study. Just ring the doorbell and he'll let you in. He can still use his hands just fine. The wheelchair is because his legs were crushed in the accident." She handed me a folder with information about the job, emergency contacts, and Mr. Monroe's care routine. "Good luck, Dorothy," she said. "Call me if you need anything." I walked up to that massive front door with my little suitcase and rang the bell. I heard a motor whirring inside, and then the door opened. A man sat in a sleek electric wheelchair. He had gray hair, neatly trimmed, expensive clothes, sharp eyes that looked me up and down. "You must be the new caregiver," he said. His voice was deep and smooth, educated. "Yes, sir, I'm Dorothy Bennett." Something flickered in his eyes when I said my last name, but it was gone so fast I thought I'd imagined it. "Come in," he said, backing up his wheelchair. "Let me show you around." The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors, chandeliers, art on the walls that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. He showed me the kitchen, the living room, the study, and finally, my suite on the second floor. It had a bedroom bigger than the entire basement I'd been living in, a private bathroom with a soaking tub, and a sitting area with a TV. The bed had more pillows than I knew what to do with. "Will this be adequate?" he asked. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "Good. I'll expect you downstairs at 6 a.m. I like breakfast at 6:30. My schedule is in the folder Angela gave you. I hope you'll be more competent than the last 3 caregivers." "I'll do my best, sir." "Call me Mr. Monroe, not sir." "Yes, Mr. Monroe." He left me alone in the suite. I sat on the bed and felt the soft comforter under my hands. A week ago, I'd been crying in a basement, scared of being homeless. Now I was in a mansion, with a job that paid better than anything I'd ever imagined. "Thank you, Jesus," I prayed. "Thank you for making a way." That first day went smoothly. I helped Mr. Monroe with his morning routine, made his meals according to his specific instructions, and helped him get ready for bed. He was particular, just like Angela had warned, but he wasn't mean, just precise. He wanted things done a certain way, and if I did them right, he was polite. But he watched me. All day I felt his eyes on me, studying me, like he was trying to figure something out. That night, I called Amara and Isaiah like I'd promised. They told me about their day at school. Shanice made them get off the phone after 5 minutes, but just hearing their voices made everything worth it. The second day started the same way. 6 a.m., help Mr. Monroe get ready. Breakfast at 6:30. He liked eggs Benedict and fresh fruit. I'd never made eggs Benedict before, but I looked up a recipe on my phone and did my best. "These are perfect," he said after his first bite. "Where did you learn to cook?" "My mama taught me," I said, "and then I've just been cooking for my family all my life." "You have family?" "A son, 2 grandbabies. My husband passed recently." "I'm sorry for your loss," he said, and something in his voice sounded genuine. "How recently?" "A month ago." He nodded slowly. "Grief is a heavy burden to carry." After breakfast, I cleaned up the kitchen. Then it was time for Mr. Monroe's physical therapy exercises. A therapist came 3 times a week, but on the other days I was supposed to help him with his stretches. "The folder explains everything," he said, rolling into the home gym. "Just follow the instructions." I did. We worked for an hour, me helping move his legs through the exercises while he directed me. He was patient when I didn't get it quite right the first time. "You're better than the last 3 already," he said as I helped him back into his wheelchair. "They acted like I was made of glass." "My Raymond had cancer," I said. "I took care of him for 2 years before he passed. I know sick people don't want to be treated like they're broken." Something changed in his face when I mentioned Raymond. "Bennett," he said quietly. "Raymond Bennett. Worked at the post office." My hands froze on the wheelchair handles. "How did you know that?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Come to my study after lunch. There's something we need to discuss." The rest of the morning felt strange. Mr. Monroe was distracted, and I was nervous. How did he know Raymond? Had they worked together somehow? But Raymond worked at the post office, and this man was clearly wealthy. They moved in different worlds. At lunch, I made him a grilled chicken salad. He barely touched it. "Mr. Monroe, are you feeling all right?" I asked. "Meet me in the study in 10 minutes, he said, and rolled away. I cleaned up the kitchen with shaking hands. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Had I done something wrong? Was he going to fire me? I couldn't go back to Shanice's house. I couldn't. I walked to the study and knocked on the door. "Come in," he called. The study was all dark wood and leather. Books lined the walls. He sat behind a massive desk, looking at something on his computer. "Close the door," he said. I did, my heart pounding. He turned his wheelchair to face me. "Dorothy, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did you know who I was when you took this job?" "No, sir, Mr. Monroe. I'd never heard your name before Angela called me about the position." "You really don't know?" "Know what?" He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, "I knew Raymond. We worked together a long time ago before he joined the post office, and I know your son, Terrence." My legs felt weak. "How do you know Terrence?" "That's what we need to talk about. But first, I need to know if your son has any idea you're working for me." "No. He didn't even say goodbye when I left. Mr. Monroe, what's going on?" He opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a folder. A thick one. He laid it on the desk between us. "Your son works for a company called Prestige Investments. Do you know what they do?" "Terrence told me they help people invest their money. Make it grow." Mr. Monroe's expression was grim. "That's what they tell people. What they actually do is run a sophisticated scheme targeting elderly Black families. They convince people to give them control of their assets, promising huge returns. Then they drain the accounts and hide the money through a series of shell companies." My mouth went dry. "No, Terrence wouldn't." "I've been investigating Prestige for 6 months. Since the accident, I've had a lot of time on my hands. I used to work in finance before I retired. When I started noticing the pattern, I couldn't let it go." "Dot, may I call you Dot? Your husband called you Dot." I nodded, unable to speak. "Dot, your son is one of their top performers. He's been with them for 3 years. In that time, he's helped them steal over $4 million from families just like yours." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the desk. "In fact," he continued, opening the folder, "according to these documents, Terrence opened an investment account in your name and Raymond's name 2 years ago. You gave him nearly $200,000 from the sale of your house. Do you know where that money is now?" I shook my head. "Gone. Transferred out in small increments to various accounts. Untraceable. Your son and his wife have been living off your money, Dot. The new car Shanice drives? Paid for with your money. The European vacation they took last year? Your money. The remodeled kitchen in their house? Your money." "No," I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew it was true. All those times Terrence avoided me, all of Shanice's expensive purchases, the way they treated me like a burden when I'd given them everything. "I'm sorry," Mr. Monroe said quietly. "I know this is painful, but there's more. And it involves your grandchildren." I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. "Amara and Isaiah?" "What about them?" "They're college funds, the ones Raymond set up when they were born. They're controlled by Terrence's trustee. Do you know how much should be in those accounts? $50,000 each. Raymond and I put money in every month for years. Mr. Monroe showed me a document. There's $3,000 in Amara's account, $2,000 in Isaiah's. The rest was transferred out 6 months ago. I couldn't breathe. Raymond and I had sacrificed so much for those college funds. We'd skipped vacations. We'd driven old cars. We'd done without so our grandbabies could have a better future. And our son had stolen it. Why are you telling me this? I asked. What do you want from me? I want to help you get justice. But more than that, I need your help. The FBI has been building a case against Prestige for a year. I've been working with them providing financial analysis, but we need more evidence. We need someone on the inside who can testify about how they operate, someone who can explain to a jury how they target vulnerable people. I don't understand. I'm not on the inside. But you were a victim, and you have access to something we need, your son's house, his computer, his files. Dot, I know this is asking a lot, but if we can take down Prestige, we can potentially recover some of the stolen money. Not all of it, but some. And we can make sure they don't hurt anyone else. I thought about all those families, people like me and Raymond, who'd worked hard all their lives, who'd trusted their children, who'd been betrayed. What would I have to do? For now, nothing. Just work here, learn the details of the case, and heal. When you're ready, we'll talk about the next steps. But Dot, I need you to understand something. This won't be easy. Testifying against your son, helping to build a case against him, it could send him to prison. He stole from his own children, I said, my voice hard. He left his mama homeless while he spent her money. He watched his father die, knowing he'd stolen everything we had. So you'll help? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Amara's school. My grandbaby was sick, and they couldn't reach Shanice or Terrence. Could I come get her? I have to go, I said. My granddaughter. Go, Mr. Monroe said. Take my car. We'll talk more tonight. I drove Mr. Monroe's Mercedes, a car nicer than anything I'd ever sat in, to Amara's school. She had a fever and looked miserable. I signed her out and took her back to Terrence's house, calling Shanice the whole way. No answer. I let myself in with the key I still had and took Amara straight up to her room. I gave her medicine, got her into her pajamas, and sat with her until she fell asleep. That's when I heard voices downstairs. Loud voices. Shanice was home, and she wasn't alone. I walked to the top of the stairs and listened. Told you to get rid of her, a man's voice said. Having her around is too risky. She's gone, Shanice said. She's working for some old man now. She's out of our hair. What if she starts asking questions about the money? She won't. She's too stupid. And even if she did, what's she going to do? She's got no proof of anything. We covered our tracks. Your husband better hope so. The FBI's been sniffing around Prestige. If they connect him to the bigger players, they won't. Terrence is careful. I backed away from the stairs, my heart pounding. I needed to get out of there before they knew I was home. But I couldn't leave Amara. I was tiptoeing toward Amara's room when I heard it. A crash from Isaiah's room. Then crying. I ran down the hall and pushed open his door. Isaiah was on the floor, holding his arm and crying. His toy shelf had fallen on him. Isaiah, baby! I knelt next to him, checking his arm. It was already swelling. Grandma Dot, he sobbed. It hurts. I heard footsteps pounding up the stairs. Shanice burst into the room. What are you doing here? She demanded. The school called. Amara was sick. Nobody answered their phone. So you just came into my house? It's my granddaughter, and now Isaiah's hurt. We need to take him to the hospital. I think his arm might be broken. Shanice looked at Isaiah like he was an inconvenience. I'll take him. I'm coming with you. No, you're not. Get out of my house, Dorothy. I'm not leaving these babies. Get out. We stared at each other. Then I heard Mr. Monroe's voice in my head. This could send him to prison. I looked at Isaiah crying on the floor, at Amara sick in the next room, at Shanice who cared more about money than her own children. "Fine," I said, "but I'm calling you in an hour to check on Isaiah, and if you don't answer, I'm calling the police." I kissed Isaiah's forehead, checked on Amara one more time, and left. I drove back to Mr. Monroe's house with tears pouring down my face. He was waiting in the foyer when I walked in. "What happened?" I told him everything, about Isaiah getting hurt, about the conversation I'd overheard. "The FBI," I said. "You said they're investigating. How close are they to making arrests?" "A few months, maybe less. They need more evidence." "Then let's get it," I said. "Whatever you need me to do. Because those babies deserve better, and every family that trusted their money to these people deserves justice." "Are you sure?" I thought about Raymond, about how hard we'd worked, about the future we'd planned that was stolen from us, about my grandbabies, who deserved to have their college money back. "I'm sure. Then we start tomorrow. But tonight, you need to rest, and tomorrow night, we have somewhere to be." "Where?" "There's a prestige investments company gala. I received an invitation. I'm a potential investor. They don't know I'm investigating them. Terrence will be there, and his bosses. And Dot, you're going to be there too, as my guest." I stared at him. "You want me to go to a party with my son? After what he did?" "I want him to see you. I want him to know that you're not broken, that you're thriving. And I want him to worry about what you know. Won't he wonder why I'm with you?" Mr. Monroe smiled for the first time since I'd met him. Let him wonder. The next day was my second night in that beautiful house. Mr. Monroe spent most of the day teaching me about Prestige's operation, how they targeted people, what signs to look for, what evidence we needed. That evening, I put on the best dress I owned, a simple black one I'd worn to Raymond's funeral. Mr. Monroe had arranged for a stylist to come to the house. She did my hair and makeup and gave me a shawl that probably cost more than my car used to. "You look beautiful," Mr. Monroe said when I came downstairs. "I feel like I'm playing dress-up." "You're not playing anything. You're a warrior going into battle." We drove to the gala in his Mercedes. He'd had special controls installed so he could drive despite the wheelchair. The event was at a fancy hotel downtown. As we pulled up to the valet, I saw Terrence and Shanice getting out of their car. Shanice was wearing a gown that had to cost thousands of dollars. My money bought that dress, I thought. Mr. Monroe must have seen my face because he reached over and squeezed my hand. "Remember, you're not Dorothy the victim tonight. You're Dorothy the survivor. You're Dorothy the warrior, and you're about to show them what a mistake they made." We went inside. The ballroom was full of people in expensive clothes, drinking champagne and pretending to care about each other. I held onto Mr. Monroe's wheelchair, playing my part as the caregiver. That's when Shanice saw me. Her face went white. She grabbed Terrence's arm and whispered something in his ear. He turned, and our eyes met across the room. I smiled. A real smile. The kind that said I knew exactly what he'd done. They started walking toward us. Mr. Monroe squeezed my hand again. "Ready?" "Ready." But before Terrence and Shanice reached us, Mr. Monroe's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his expression changed. "We need to go," he said urgently. "Now." "What's wrong?" "That was the FBI. They've moved up the timeline. They're raiding Prestige's offices right now, and Dot, they're going to arrest Terrence tonight." We turned to leave, but it was too late. FBI agents were pouring into the ballroom. People were screaming. Terrence was running toward the back exit. And then everything happened at once. Shanice saw me with Mr. Monroe and screamed, "This is her fault! That bitch set us up!" Terrence stopped running and turned to look at me. And in his eyes, I saw it. He knew. He knew I'd betrayed him. An agent grabbed Terrence's arm. Terrence Bennett, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and theft. Mom! Terrence shouted across the ballroom. Mom, please! The kids! Who's going to take care of the kids? That's when my phone rang. I pulled it out with shaking hands. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Mrs. Bennett? A woman's voice. Official. Cold. This is Child Protective Services. We have Amara and Isaiah Bennett in our custody. Their mother has been arrested. And we're trying to locate their father. He's being arrested too, I whispered. What about the children? Where are they? They're safe for now, but we need to place them with family. Are you available to take temporary custody? I looked at Mr. Monroe. He nodded. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll take them. We need you to come to our office immediately to sign paperwork. Do you know where? But I couldn't hear the rest because Shanice was screaming at me from across the room, FBI agents holding her back. You did this! You destroyed our family! Those are my children! No, I said quietly. They're my grandbabies, and I'm going to protect them from you. Mr. Monroe started rolling his wheelchair toward the exit. I followed, my legs shaking. That's when I saw him. The man from Shanice's house. The one who'd been talking about covering their tracks. He was standing by the bar, watching everything. And when our eyes met, he smiled. Mr. Monroe? I said urgently. That man. He was at Terrence's house. He knows about the FBI investigation. Mr. Monroe followed my gaze. His face went pale. That's not possible. But before he could finish, the man walked straight toward us. Fast. Too fast. Get behind me, Mr. Monroe said. What? No, Dorothy, get behind me now! I moved behind the wheelchair just as the man reached us. He leaned down, his face close to Mr. Monroe's. Calvin, he said softly. Long time no see. I thought you were dead. I should be, Mr. Monroe said, since you cut my brake lines. My blood went cold. That was business, the man said. Just like this is business. See? You've caused me a lot of problems. The FBI thinks they've shut down my operation, but they've only scratched the surface. And I can't have you testifying about what you know. He pulled something from his jacket. A gun. People started screaming. FBI agents drew their weapons. Everything was chaos. But the man just looked at me. Hello, Dorothy. You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. I was at your wedding. I was at your son's birthday parties. I'm Terrence's godfather. Did he ever tell you that? My mouth fell open. I looked at Mr. Monroe. Is this? Yes, Mr. Monroe said quietly. Dot, this is Calvin Monroe, my twin brother. The man whose name I took after he tried to kill me. The world stopped spinning. The man in the wheelchair wasn't Calvin Monroe. He was someone else entirely. Someone from my past. Raymond? I whispered. But that was impossible. Raymond was dead. I'd watched them put him in the ground. The man in the wheelchair, my Raymond's brother, who I'd never met, smiled sadly. No, Dot. I'm Lawrence, Raymond's younger brother. The one who left town 50 years ago and never came back. The one who built a fortune while you and Raymond struggled. The one who should have come home but was too ashamed. I don't understand, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, pieces were clicking into place. The way he knew Raymond's habits. The way he looked at me. The scar above his eyebrow. Raymond had one just like it, from when they were kids. We'll explain everything, Lawrence said, if we survive the next 5 minutes. The real Calvin Monroe, the man with the gun, laughed. How touching! A family reunion. Raymond would have loved this. Oh wait, Raymond's dead. Isn't he, Lawrence? Dead because you convinced him to invest in that doomed startup instead of getting the treatment he needed. That's not... Lawrence started. Shut up, Calvin said. He raised the gun, pointing it at Lawrence. You know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of you. I'm tired of being the bad guy in everyone's story. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell those FBI agents that you made everything up, that there's no case, that it's all a lie, or I'm going to kill her." He swung the gun toward me. "No!" Lawrence shouted. And that's when someone tackled Calvin from behind. Someone small. Someone in a sparkly dress. Shanice. The gun went off, and everything went black. I opened my eyes to bright lights. White ceiling, beeping machines, a hospital. I tried to sit up, but my whole body ached. "Easy now," a familiar voice said. Loretta. My best friend was sitting in a chair next to my bed holding my hand. "You're okay, baby. You're okay." "What happened?" My voice came out rough, like I'd been screaming. "You got grazed by that bullet, hit your head when you fell. You've been out for 6 hours." Loretta's eyes were red from crying. "Girl, you scared me half to death. I got a call saying you were in the hospital, shot at some fancy gala. What in the world were you mixed up in?" Everything came flooding back. The gala, the FBI, Calvin with the gun, Shanice tackling him, the gunshot. "Shanice," I said, trying to sit up again. "Is she—" "She's alive, in custody. The bullet hit her shoulder. She saved your life, Dot. I don't know why, but she did. The children, Amara and Isaiah." "Where are they?" "They're with CPS right now, but there's a man outside who's been waiting to talk to you about that. Says his name is Lawrence Bennett. Says he's Raymond's brother." My heart clenched. Lawrence. The man I'd thought was Calvin Monroe. The man who'd been helping me all along. "Send him in," I said. Loretta looked skeptical. "You sure? After everything?" "I'm sure." She left, and a moment later, Lawrence rolled his wheelchair into the room. He looked exhausted, worried. When he saw me awake, relief flooded his face. "Thank God," he whispered. "Dot, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to get hurt. I never meant for any of this to happen the way it did." "Start from the beginning," I said. "Who are you really? And why did you lie?" He rolled closer to my bed. "I'm Lawrence Bennett, Raymond's younger brother. I left home when I was 22, right after you and Raymond got married. I was angry at our father, angry at the world. I went to California, changed my name, built a life in finance, made more money than I ever dreamed possible. Why didn't you ever come back? Raymond talked about you sometimes. He missed you." "Shame," Lawrence said simply. "The more successful I became, the more ashamed I was that I'd left my family behind, that I'd let pride keep me away. I kept telling myself I'd come back next year, but next year never came. And then I heard Raymond was sick." His voice broke. "I came back then, 2 years ago. I went to the hospital where Raymond was getting treatment. I was going to tell him who I was, going to pay for everything he needed. But when I got there, I saw you and Raymond with Terrence. And I heard Terrence on the phone in the hallway talking about investment returns and account transfers. Something didn't sound right. So instead of introducing myself, I started investigating." "You knew Terrence was stealing from us?" "I suspected. It took me months to confirm it. By then, Raymond's cancer was too advanced. The experimental treatment he needed, I tried to pay for it anonymously, but the hospital wouldn't accept funds from an unknown source. I was going to reveal myself then, but Raymond passed before I could." Tears were streaming down his face now, down mine too. "I went to the funeral, stood in the back where you couldn't see me, watched my brother get buried, and I couldn't even tell you who I was because I'd waited too long. I was a coward, Dot. I'm still a coward." "You're not a coward," I said softly. "You've been helping me." After the funeral, I kept investigating Terrence. That's when I discovered he worked for Prestige Investments, and that Prestige was run by a man named Calvin Monroe, my former business partner. The man who tried to kill me a year ago because I'd discovered he was running a massive fraud scheme. "He cut your brake lines?" "Yes. I survived, but barely. The accident left me paralyzed from the waist down. Calvin thought I was dead. I let him keep thinking that. I took his name, moved into his house. He had multiple properties, and this one was empty. I started working with the FBI to take him down. When I heard you were looking for a job, I saw an opportunity, a way to help you and to get the evidence we needed. You used me. No. Yes. I don't know. He ran his hands over his face. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to give you a safe place to land. But I also wanted to stop Calvin from hurting anyone else. And when I realized Terrence was one of Calvin's top people, I knew we had to act fast. I'm sorry, Dot. I'm sorry for all of it. I was quiet for a long time. Part of me was angry. He'd lied to me. He'd manipulated me. But another part of me understood. He'd lost his brother. He'd been trying to make things right the only way he knew how. Where's Calvin now? I asked. Federal custody. When Shanice tackled him, the FBI agents were able to subdue him. He's being charged with attempted murder, fraud, money laundering, and about 20 other crimes. He's never seeing the outside of a prison again. And Terrence? Lawrence's expression was grim. Also in custody, along with Shanice and 4 other Prestige employees. The FBI raided their homes and offices last night. They found everything. Documents, financial records, communications. Your son is looking at 20 years minimum. 20 years. My baby boy. The child I'd raised, who I'd loved with everything in me. 20 years in prison. The money, I said. Can any of it be recovered? Some. The FBI's asset forfeiture team is working on it. You won't get everything back, but you'll get something. And the kids' college funds, most of that money is still traceable. It might take time, but Amara and Isaiah will have their future back. CPS said I could take temporary custody. More than temporary if you want it. With both parents facing prison time, the court will need to place the children with family. If you're willing, I've already spoken to a family lawyer. She's prepared to help you file for full custody. Of course I'm willing. They're my grandbabies. There's something else, Lawrence said. The house. Terrence's house. It was purchased with stolen funds. It's being seized by the FBI. But Dot, I have 3 properties. The one you've been staying in is too big for just me. If you and the kids want to live there, it's yours. Or if you'd rather have your own place, I'll buy you one. Whatever you need. Why would you do that? Because you're my sister-in-law. Because Raymond loved you more than anything in this world. And he'd want me to take care of you. Because I owe you 47 years of family I threw away. Let me do this, Dot. Please. Before I could answer, there was a knock on the door. A woman in a suit came in. Mrs. Bennett? I'm Agent Mitchell with the FBI. I need to ask you some questions about last night. I spent the next 2 hours telling Agent Mitchell everything I knew. About the conversation I'd overheard at Terrence's house. About the gala. About Calvin pulling the gun. She recorded it all, taking notes. You'll need to testify, she said when we were done. Both at Calvin's trial and at the trial for the Prestige employees, including your son. Are you prepared to do that? Yes, I said without hesitation. It won't be easy. Defense attorneys will try to discredit you. They'll say you're biased because you're the victim. They'll bring up your age, your lack of financial expertise, and testifying against your own son. My son stole from his dying father, I said firmly. He stole from his own children. He watched me face homelessness and did nothing. I'll testify. Agent Mitchell nodded. We'll be in touch. After she left, Loretta came back in. You got a whole crowd of people outside wanting to see you. Pastor Williams is here. Sister Margaret brought you food from the church kitchen. Half of Mount Calvary is in the waiting room. Can they come in? The nurse said 2 at a time. For the next hour, my church family came through. They prayed over me. They cried with me. They told me I was strong and brave and that God had a plan. Pastor Williams read me Psalm 23. and I felt Raymond's presence so strongly I could almost touch him. When everyone had gone except Loretta, she sat back down next to my bed. "You gonna be okay?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Everything's broken. My family, my trust, my son. But you're not broken." "No," I agreed. "I'm not broken." The next morning, they released me from the hospital. Lawrence had arranged for a car to take me to the CPS office. I was finally going to get my babies. When I walked into that government building, my heart was pounding. What if they wouldn't give them to me? What if Amara and Isaiah didn't want to come with me? But then I saw them, sitting in a waiting area with a social worker, looking small and scared. Amara saw me first. "Grandma Dot!" She ran to me, throwing her arms around my waist. Isaiah was right behind her. "We want to go home with you." "Is that okay?" Amara asked, looking up at me with Raymond's eyes. "Can we live with you now?" "Yes, babies," I said, holding them both tight. "Yes, you can." The social worker, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, took me into an office and explained the process. Temporary custody while the criminal cases proceeded, then a permanent custody hearing once Terrence and Shanice were sentenced. "The children have been through a trauma," she said. "Their parents were arrested in front of them. They're confused and scared. They'll need therapy, stability, love." "They'll have all of that," I promised. We signed papers. So many papers. And then, just like that, Amara and Isaiah were mine. Lawrence was waiting outside in his Mercedes. He'd had car seats installed in the back. "Hey guys," he said when the kids climbed in. "I'm your Uncle Lawrence. You never met me before, but I knew your daddy when he was little, and I knew your granddaddy Raymond real well." "Are you the rich uncle Mama used to talk about?" Amara asked. Lawrence's smile was sad. "I guess I am." We drove to Lawrence's house. Our house now. The kids were amazed by everything. The fountain, the big rooms, the pool in the backyard. "We live here?" Isaiah asked, his eyes huge. "We do," I said. "Forever?" "As long as you want to." Over the next few weeks, we settled into a new routine. I enrolled the kids in a good school near the house, started them with a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma. Lawrence hired a tutor to help Amara catch up in math, where she'd been struggling. At night, I'd tuck them in their new beds in their new rooms, and they'd ask me questions. "Why did Daddy and Mama do bad things?" Isaiah asked one night. "I don't know, baby. Sometimes people make choices that hurt the people who love them, but that's not your fault. None of this is your fault." "Do you still love them?" Amara asked another night. I thought about that. Did I? Could I love someone who'd hurt me so badly? "I love the little boy your daddy used to be," I said finally. "The boy who used to help me bake cookies and who cried when we found that injured bird in the yard. But the man he became, I don't know that person." "I'm scared we'll become bad like them," Amara whispered. "Oh, baby." I pulled her close. "You have their blood, but you have mine too. You have your granddaddy Raymond's heart. And most importantly, you get to choose who you become. Every single day, you get to choose." The trial started 3 months later. Calvin Monroe went first. I sat in that courtroom and listened to the prosecutor lay out his crimes. Fraud, theft, attempted murder. The list went on and on. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to that stand with my head high. I told the jury about Lawrence's investigation, about the gala, about Calvin pulling that gun. His lawyer tried to shake me. "Mrs. Bennett, isn't it true that you were recently evicted from your home? That you were desperate for money?" "I was never evicted," I said calmly. "And yes, I needed work. That's not a crime." "Isn't it convenient that you ended up working for the one man who could give you revenge against your family?" "I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. There's a difference. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Calvin Monroe was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. Terrence's trial was harder. I had to sit there and watch my son in an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed, looking nothing like the boy I'd raised. When I took the stand, our eyes met. He looked away first. I testified about the money he'd taken, about the conversation I'd overheard, about how he'd treated me after Raymond died. His lawyer tried a different tactic. "Mrs. Bennett, your son loved you. He gave you a place to live when you had nowhere else to go." "He gave me a basement," I said. "After he stole everything my husband and I had worked for. That's not love." "Isn't it possible you misunderstood? That this was all a legitimate investment that simply went wrong?" "No," I said firmly. "It's not possible. Because I heard him on the phone talking about covering his tracks. Because I saw him live off my money while treating me like a burden. Because he stole from his own children." I looked directly at Terrence. "I loved you. Your father loved you. We gave you everything. And you repaid us by taking everything we had. I hope the jury sees you for what you really are." Terrence was convicted, 15 years. Shanice got 10 years for her role in the conspiracy, but the judge took into account that she'd saved my life at the gala. Her lawyer said she'd had a breakdown that night, realized what they'd done to me, and couldn't let Calvin kill me. I didn't know if that was true or if she'd just panicked. But I was alive because of her, and I had to find a way to live with that complicated truth. The money started coming back slowly. The FBI recovered $230,000 from various accounts. Not everything we'd lost, but enough. Enough to restore the kids' college funds. Enough to give us security. Lawrence refused to take any of it. "That's yours and Raymond's money," he said. "Give it to the kids. Build a future." 6 months after the trials, I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen in the house that Lawrence had deeded to me and the kids, making Sunday breakfast. Amara was setting the table. Isaiah was in the living room watching cartoons. Lawrence was reading the newspaper at the counter. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the future Raymond and I had dreamed of. But it was good. The kids were healing. They laughed more now. They were doing well in school. They'd stopped having nightmares every night. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer it. It was Loretta carrying her famous mac and cheese. Behind her was Sister Margaret with a sweet potato pie. Behind them was half of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. "What's all this?" I asked. "It's your birthday, Dot," Loretta said. "You think we'd forget?" I'd actually forgotten myself. 69 years old today. Raymond always made my birthdays special. They all piled into the house, filling it with laughter and love. We ate and sang hymns and celebrated life. The kids ran around with the other church kids, finally acting like children should act. Pastor Williams pulled me aside at one point. "How are you really doing, Sister Dorothy?" "I'm angry," I admitted. "Some days I'm so angry at Terrence I can't breathe. And then I feel guilty for being angry because he's my son. But he's also the man who hurt me, and hurt his father, and hurt his own children." "Anger is natural," Pastor Williams said. "The question is what you do with it. You can let it eat you alive, or you can give it to God and trust Him to handle justice." "I keep praying for that," I said. "But it's hard." "The hardest things usually are. But look at what you've built, Sister Dorothy. Look at those babies laughing. Look at this family you've created. That's not revenge. That's redemption." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, I sat on the back patio with Lawrence. The stars were out, bright and clear. "I got a letter from Terrence today," Lawrence said. "He asked me to give it to you." He handed me an envelope. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. The letter was short. "Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I don't even know how to explain what happened. It started small, just a little extra money here and there. Shanice wanted things, and I wanted to give them to her. and then it got bigger and bigger until I couldn't stop. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew I was hurting you and Dad, but I told myself it was just temporary, that I'd pay it all back, that you'd never have to know. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I wasn't there when Dad died. I'm sorry I let Shanice treat you the way she did. I'm sorry I stole from my own kids. I don't ask you to forgive me. I just ask that you take care of Amara and Isaiah. Give them the life I couldn't give them. Tell them their father loved them, even if he didn't know how to show it. I'm sorry. Terrence. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Tears were running down my face. What are you going to do? Lawrence asked. I'm going to put this letter in a box, I said. And someday, when Amara and Isaiah are old enough to understand, I'll give it to them. They deserve to know their father was sorry, even if sorry isn't enough. Are you going to write him back? I don't know. Not today. Maybe not ever. Right now I need to focus on healing, on the kids, on building something good from all this pain. Raymond would be proud of you. I hope so. I miss him every day. Some mornings I wake up and forget he's gone. I reach for him, and he's not there. He's there, Lawrence said. In those kids, in the love you built together, in every choice you make to be kind when you have every right to be bitter. He's there, Dot. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Lawrence, I said eventually, why did you really help me? Was it just guilt about Raymond? He thought about that for a long time. Partly, he admitted, but also because when I saw you at that funeral, standing there so strong even though your whole world had fallen apart, I saw something I'd lost. Family, connection, love. I'd spent 40 years chasing money and success, and I'd missed everything that mattered. You reminded me what I'd given up, and I wanted to be part of that again. Part of a family. You are family, I said. You always were. You just had to come home. Thank you for letting me. A year later, I stood in family court for the final custody hearing. Amara and Isaiah sat next to me, dressed in their Sunday best. Lawrence was in the gallery, along with Loretta and Pastor Williams and what felt like half the congregation. The judge reviewed the case. Terrence and Shanice's incarceration, the children's adjustment, reports from the therapist, the school, the social worker. Mrs. Bennett, the judge said, you've provided a stable, loving home for these children during an incredibly difficult time. It's clear they're thriving in your care. She stamped the papers. Full custody granted. These children are legally yours. Amara grabbed my hand. Isaiah threw his arms around me. In the gallery, our church family erupted in quiet celebration. We were officially a family. That night, we had a celebration dinner at home. Lawrence made his famous lasagna. Turns out he'd learned to cook during his years in California. The kids were giddy with joy, finally understanding that they didn't have to worry about being taken away. Grandma Dot, Amara said after dinner, can I ask you something? Anything, baby. Do you think Mama and Daddy will ever get out of prison? Yes, someday. Your daddy will be out when you're about 30. Your mama a few years before that. Will we have to see them? Only if you want to. That will always be your choice. I'm still mad at them, Isaiah said quietly. That's okay. You're allowed to be mad. But I miss them too. Is that weird? No, baby, that's not weird at all. You can be angry at someone and still love them. You can miss them and still know they hurt you. Feelings are complicated like that. You're really good at explaining stuff, Amara said. That's because I've lived a long time, and I've learned that most things in life aren't simple. There's usually good and bad all mixed together. Like Uncle Lawrence, Isaiah said. He lied about who he was, but he was also helping us the whole time. Exactly like that. Lawrence appeared in the doorway. Did someone call my name? We were just talking about how you're complicated, Amara said. That's a nice way of saying I messed up, but you forgive me anyway. We forgive you, Isaiah said. Right, Grandma? Right, I said, smiling at Lawrence. We forgive him. 2 years after everything fell apart, I stood in the backyard watching Amara and Isaiah play in the pool. They were 9 and 7 now, growing so fast. Amara wanted to be a lawyer now, said she was going to help people like the lawyers who'd helped us. Isaiah wanted to be a chef, said he was going to make food that made people happy like Grandma Dot's cooking did. My phone rang. It was a number from the federal prison where Terrence was housed. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mom? Terrence's voice, older, tired. I wasn't sure you'd answer. I almost didn't. I understand. I wanted to hear your voice, and I wanted you to know I got my GED. I'm taking college classes through the prison program. Business ethics, ironically enough. That's good, Terrence. I heard Amara and Isaiah are doing well, that they're happy. They are. Thank you for taking care of them. Thank you for being the parent I couldn't be. I was quiet for a moment. Terrence, I need you to understand something. I'm raising these children, and I'm going to tell them the truth about what happened. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. They need to know that actions have consequences, that even people who love you can hurt you. I know. I want you to tell them. I don't want them to make my mistakes. What happened to you? I asked. You were such a good boy. You were kind and smart and caring. When did that change? He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then he said, I don't know, Mom. I think it was gradual, little compromises here and there, telling myself it was okay because everyone else was doing it, letting Shanice's wants become more important than my integrity. And then one day I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Do you recognize yourself now? Sometimes. I'm working on it. The therapy here helps. I'm learning about the person I want to be. Whether I'll ever get the chance to be that person, I don't know. But I'm trying. That's all any of us can do, I said. Try. Mom, I love you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I love you. I know, I said softly. And I did. Despite everything, I knew my son loved me. It just wasn't enough. Love without honor, without integrity, without respect, that kind of love destroys more than it heals. Tell the kids. Tell them their daddy's trying to be better. Tell them I think about them every day. I will. After we hung up, I stood there with the phone in my hand, tears running down my face. Lawrence rolled out onto the patio. You okay? I don't know. That was Terrence. How is he? He's trying. Whether it's real or just something he tells himself to get through the days, I don't know. Does it matter? I thought about that. Maybe not. Maybe trying is enough, even if you never get there. Grandma Dot, Isaiah called from the pool. Watch me dive. I wiped my eyes and smiled. I'm watching, baby. He dove under the water, came up grinning and proud. Amara was right behind him, always competitive, showing off her own dive. These were my babies now, my purpose, my joy. Raymond would have loved seeing them like this, happy, safe, loved. I'm going to be okay, I said to Lawrence. We're all going to be okay. Yes, he agreed. You are. And standing there in the sunshine, watching my grandbabies play, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. It wasn't the life I'd planned. The road had been hard, full of betrayal and pain and loss. But I'd survived. More than survived. I'd fought back. I'd protected my family. I'd found justice. And now, finally, I could rest. The storm had passed, and I was still standing. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.